So those of you who were here last year will remember that I made a commitment to be more transparent with all of the information that we could provide that was not nominated information about individual researchers in relation to the use of animals in our research, and we have done that. I go further than what you said, Peter. I would say that UBC is now the university in Canada providing the greatest information, not one of. It is providing more information than any other university. And we've done that by telling exactly how many animals are used in research, what species are there, and we tried to give an overview of the investments that we've made over the last 5 years, of roughly $100 million in better care for animals on campus. We also recently released a 2010 report from the Canadian Council on Animal Care, to my knowledge the first university to do that, which went through all of the issues that the Canadian Council on Animal Care wanted to raise vis-a-vis care here for animals on the UBC campus. So we really have become much more transparent than we were before. We will continue to do that. We will continue to try to release more information as it becomes available. I did say last year that we have to balance that against the privacy interests and the safety interests of individual researchers. I'm not suggesting that there's been any inappropriate conduct here in BC. There has not. But I mentioned last year that if you look at other parts of the world, in the UK, in California, etc., individuals have been targeted. We don't want our researchers to face that. So we have to be a little bit careful about how information is released. I want to assure you again that UBC is not really in a different position on animal research, beyond the fact that we're more transparent and investing more, than any other large research-intensive university. The kind of research that's done here is very similar to that which is done at research-intensive universities the world over. It's dictated by the need primarily for medical researchers to do what's called animal modeling. Interestingly, legislation in Canada, the US, the UK, and elsewhere actually requires animal testing before we can actually go to human tests on drugs and other initiatives that have potentially an important effect on human health and address very debilitating diseases. So we're doing what we're told we have to do in terms of the regulatory framework. Lastly, I just want to emphasize that we do adhere to the highest ethical standards and the 3 R's principle. That means to reduce, refine, and replace the use of animals wherever possible. So when we can do computer modeling, we do. And it's only when computer modeling wouldn't tell us enough that we do the animal research, and we do it to improve human health. And animal welfare, interestingly, because some of this testing is also in relation to improving animal welfare. And we'll continue on that track. Thanks. A great question. So it's important to understand what's actually happening right now. What's happening is that housing, which was built many years ago and which is really substandard, the environment around it is lovely, I'm not referring to that, but the housing itself in the Acadia area, which is what I assume you're talking to about, is actually in very, very bad shape. There are problems with mold, there are problems with a whole series of issues that would have to be dealt with. The analysis was done very carefully many years ago. Actually, a decision about 10 years ago, long before most of us were around here, was made not to continue to invest in that housing because it was in such worse shape. So that housing has to go away. That housing is going to be torn down no matter what zoning decisions are relevant to the area. So that's the first point. So the housing itself has to be replaced. Now, it could be replaced by housing that's exactly the same as the housing that's there now, but just of a better standard. I want to question the assumption around what it means to live in a sustainable community. The density there is actually the lowest that we have on campus. On campus, I'm not talking about the UEL with 10,000 square foot houses and that sort of thing, which has nothing to do with UBC. Misnamed, right? All of that has nothing to do with UBC. But on campus, that has the lowest density. there is a real concern about using the land of the university as effectively as possible while acknowledging the points that you make around the importance of ensuring that there is community space, access to green space. All of those things are really important. So what I imagine will happen, in the short term, people are being moved into other areas of campus, which had been denominated faculty and staff housing. It's been now made into graduate student family housing, and as I mentioned, we're building out faculty and staff housing at the same time. That area will remain not used for housing for a period of time. And to get to your consultation question, there will be a full consultation process that is mandated by the land use plan for the university before anything happens on that land. And that means that there will have to be a neighborhood plan which is developed, and that neighborhood plan will have to be subject to consultation with the whole university community. I don't know when that's going to happen because I don't think that there's any expectation that the land will be reused or redeveloped in the short term.
It's already been rezoned though for market housing. It's been taken out of the academic area.
But you've got to put the whole thing in a broader context, because what's happening is that other parts of the campus have been redesignated as academic. We've just done that in the Gage South area, which is now going to provide opportunities for more student housing, including graduate student housing, which is specifically targeted on that Gage area. So over time, the goal here is to build more available space for graduate student housing and undergraduate student housing, not less. And that's part of the overall land use plan. Libraries are, right now, one of the real head scratchers in universities. How do you create a sustainable model that really increases access, that allows collections to continue to be increased, that improves the services, improves advice to students on access to online information, understands that libraries are not used in the way that they were when I was a student or even when I was a young professor? I mean, the stats are dramatic in this area, and we have to understand that our folk in the library system are really working hard to figure out, just as you say, what does this look like 10 to 15 years out? So here's something interesting to contemplate. In the whole UBC library system, 60% of the books, 60% have not had to be reshelved in 8 years. Now that's not means they haven't been taken out of the library. They haven't even been taken off a shelf and left in a carrel or put somewhere else. 60% of the books. In the music library, the circulation has decreased 58% in the last 10 years. So at the same time, students quite correctly are saying, we want more access to online. We want to have databases that we can access from home. We want to be able to work in a library in teams. So many of our projects now are not individual projects. I mean, the old notion of sitting in a library in a little carrel and doing your own thing, for most people, not all, is no longer the way they interact with the library. And the library system is trying to figure that out. And it's hard. And they're trying to figure it out in a time when the cost of materials has gone up exponentially. Now, we have a little help in the last couple of years. This is one place where the rise of the Canadian dollar has made a difference. So we're able to buy more than we were 3 or 4 years ago. And I was just talking to the provost this morning, and he was mentioning that just in the last couple of years, the UBC library system's ranking in North America has gone up quite considerably because the Canadian dollars allow us to buy more. That's great, but it doesn't address the problem that Mike is pointing to. But the context here is one of dramatic change, one of new kinds of use, and one in which the library system is under intense pressure to make sure that it can provide services and continue to expand collections at a time when both of those things cost more money. So all around the world, literally, and certainly in North America and Europe, consolidation of libraries, consolidation of collections has been one of the things that's been undertaken. And that's happened here at UBC. So, you know, a few years ago, the math collection and other collections were moved into Harvard, for example. It looks like the goal now, when I was talking to some library people about this, the goal now is to try to create a visual arts and performing arts, creative and performing arts collection, all brought together and easily accessible, and the idea is that that would be in Urban Cave Arbor. And the hope then is to actually provide better services, to invest, for example, in listening stations so that people have the best digital technologies available to them so that they can listen to music more easily in the collection, and where they'll have access to all of the collection in one place. The music collection is already distributed. It's over a number of locations because it overgrew the space that was available here a number of years ago. So that's the idea. It's not perfect. No one wants to lose a library, but there's going to be, I know, a town hall here at the music building to look at all of this coming up, I think, on the 18th. So I'd encourage you to all have that conversation in more detail, but I think we have to acknowledge that it can't be simply a retention of what libraries looked like 15 years ago. That is just not going to succeed going forward because the challenges are too great and the new models are too significant. I am a library nut, let me tell you. I built a library when I was a law dean. I care deeply about libraries, and even I find that in my own research, I'm doing more and more of it from my computer at home. Well, that has implications for how libraries operate, and we've got to come to grips with it, I think. Now, one piece of good news, maybe, Michael, I know one of the things that's important is scores for music students, and I know there were particular issues around that, and having access to scores. So the provost was telling me this morning that it may very well be that we can reach an agreement and some kind of sensible accommodation so that scores will still be available here, so that students who are actually in the midst of working on something and want to see whether there are different interpretations that have been printed up over the years, etc., would be available easily so that they can use them for performance preparation. So that may be one way of trying to address what is obviously a major question.
Can I have a quick follow-up just about staffing?
Yes.
Because the expertise that's needed to run these different kinds of libraries is very dispersed.
That's right.
And short of negotiating with library training institutes to provide a new breed of super librarian, it's kind of hard to know how these things will play out. The things that you say sound very sunny, but they do. We're going to have this more access. It's going to be, we're going to consolidate. It's going to be great. But
So the head librarian,
you have 60 seconds.
The head librarian, for example, is retiring here, and maybe that opens up, and has done a wonderful job over many, many years, but maybe that opens up different opportunities. The point you make is fundamentally the right one. It's not just investing in collections, it's investing in the people who can help us take best advantage of the collections. And that, again, is what libraries are struggling with. How do we train people so that they do have that expertise? How do we ensure that we have the resources so that we can hire the expertise? That's exactly what we need to figure out. But it can't just be by having distributed libraries all over campus that are only partially funded.